I'm going to be doing a Q&A with Archangel Sandalphon. I'm going to be asking him about his time incarnated as Elijah the prophet and what would he like us to know. I am Archangel Sandalphon, and I am pleased to be here and be asked these questions. My heart was very pure. No doubts entered my field at all. Continue to do your work to release all that is old and crumbling within you that no longer serves.
Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to Becoming Awesome with Tracy J, channeling Archangel Sandalphon.
I'm going to be doing a Q&A with Archangel Sandalphon. I'm going to be asking him about his time incarnated as Elijah the prophet, about the whole Torah and the religion and what was going on at that time, and even a little bit about the God Yahweh, and just checking in to see, like, how has his perspective changed and shifted now that he's an archangel, and what would he like us to know relative to the books that were written about him at that time and things we can still study and read today. If what Archangel Sandalphon strikes you in any way, uplifts you, has you learned something you hadn't previously understood, please remember to comment about that. And if you haven't already subscribed and liked this video, please do that as well. And without further ado, I'm going to ask my first question for Archangel Sandalphon, and we will bring him in. So, Archangel Sandalphon, now that you have the perspective of having been an archangel for a while, and as you think back on your incarnation as the prophet Elijah, what new perspectives do you want to share with humanity? What in particular about that time do you maybe feel particularly proud of, or that you might want to redo of, or that you have had a deeper level of understanding and would do differently if you were incarnated today? I am Archangel Sandalphon, and I am pleased to be here and be asked these questions. It is a very difficult thing you ask me to do because, of course, my understanding was limited. I was human. Even though I was a gifted human, it was a very dense time on the planet Earth, you must understand. So the first thing that leaps to my mind is the whole debacle on Mount Carmel. I can't believe that we actually would fight over whose God was more powerful and whose God could smite the other, and that I was so wrapped up in this power game about Yahweh and even our interpretation of Yahweh and the laws of Yahweh. I feel that we were not able to sense or understand the true nature of a God. And so we humanized him and made him petty and, heard that he would have a law that no other God shall come before me, when in fact, from the perspective I have now, is that no God, no form of God would ever feel intimidated or threatened by another form of God. God is all that is. God shows up in different forms to be able to relate to humans in the phase that they are in their reference for understanding things. So one thing I will say in defense of how all of our laws of the Torah and the strictness of Yahweh served was that because humans were very dense at that time and very low consciousness, having fear of retribution from the Lord did keep them more aligned with being good people. At least all the laws about protecting each other, helping to feed the poor, all that kind of stuff really did serve at that particular time, and perhaps kept some from doing damage to others because it felt like Yahweh kept them in check, or at least our collective beliefs about Yahweh at the time. Another perspective I have is about how much time I spent seeing droughts or big storms or other issues in nature as punishment from God. And, all of this was a misinterpretation. We were firm believers in a system of good and evil, rewards for the just and the righteous, and punishments for those who were not. And the laws of the Torah were very hard to live up to, demanded absolute perfection. Otherwise, it was expected that there would be punishment from God. And so it was natural for us to interpret some of these things that happened, whether it was the arrival of locusts, anything that, hurt the crops, anything that caused damage to buildings or flooding or whatever it was. We tended to interpret all of this as punishment by God for what we had done, either individually or collectively. And this I would like to, go on record as correcting. This was a misinterpretation, and I hope that none of humanity still believes that God punishes through forces of nature. Thank you, Sandalphon. My next question is in the arena of the fact that it was so prevalent around Yahweh that, there was a commandment, know God before me. And from where you are now, and you can speak to this as well, I feel like archangels are just an aspect of God in a different form that is perhaps better at relating to people. Maybe we are conditioned to believe more in the possibility of being helped by angels than by God, or at least in the sense of, one God, one creator of everything. But in your perspective now, would any form of God ever feel threatened by another form of God? No, it would not be possible to be an actual God and to feel threatened by other gods. This was all conditioning created by the early influence, Greek mythology and mythologies from all around the world that kind of humanized gods and made them sort of very powerful versions of humans, but with all of their foibles and their jealousies and their competition for things. And so, yes, this is another area where, sadly, this created a lot of influence on others, and beliefs that you had to be in opposition to people enjoying other forms of the divine that did show up intentionally to meet people from different cultures where they were in a way that was close enough to their origin stories and cultural beliefs and spiritual beliefs that they had already. Then, of course, the divine would have to work with that section of humanity by coming to them from where they were to start with. And so, yes, the divine showed up in many ways, but they would never truly feel threatened by some other form of the divine. They were all engaged in the same thing, assisting humanity to understand there was help from this realm and to have them grow in their consciousness and their spirituality. Thank you. My next question has specifically to do with your time as Elijah. And even though you were human, you performed miracles just like Christ did, including you raised a child from the dead, and you were able to multiply a widow's oil and flour so that she would have enough to live on, and also for you as well, since you were living with her. Can you share whether or not these stories are accurate? And if so, could you give details about how did you ask and allow for these miracles to happen? What was your state of mind? What, if anything, specifically did you say or think or do that was the precursor to these miracles? Thank you. I will have to say that this is doing a remembering of something that was long, long ago, and my time sense has shifted since being an archangel and everything, but I will do my best to share with you what I can remember of those moments. I know that one of the precursors was that from very young, I sought to connect to the divine strongly. I had in me a feeling that this was very, very important. And I always strove to listen deeply and to live in my heart so that I could connect more to the divine. And in those moments, I remember being sort of outside myself, feeling very much just the love that I had for this child, as well as the love the divine had for this child. And a sense that for whatever reason, a miracle was called upon in that moment. And so I sat by the child and asked to connect very, very deeply to the divine. And then I had a moment where, after I had felt like I could perceive it as real, as having already happened, as imagining myself hugging this child as it reawakened, then I went into absolute stillness and trust, and just was present quietly, watching the face of this child with every cell in my body, anticipating that his eyes would open and he would return to us. I felt very much outside space and time in that moment, so I have no way to tell you how long I sat in that state before the child woke back up, came back into life. The situation of not having enough food was also very real, and I felt that it had been so generous of the widow to allow me to live with her, and that I was also responsible for the fact that there was no longer enough food. And there were many circumstances as to why it became very difficult to get food at that time, but that is not what is important. What is important is that once again, I felt I had done everything I could within my purview as a human, as had the widow, and we had not managed to secure more food. And so I again went into a place deep in my heart where I most feel God, the divine, and I asked and then allowed myself the experience of seeing the table filled with many bags of flour, with much cooking oil, with other things that we needed in order to survive. And then I went into stillness. I remember feeling I was in a very childlike state, full of awe and wonder as I saw the spread before me, as I saw all that I needed magically appear, and could feel the rejoicing for myself, the widow, and her son at this abundance of food that we now had. So I saw it all as having already happened, and then sank into stillness in a very pleasing, patient anticipation of my prayer being manifest. My heart was very pure. No doubts entered my field at all. I felt an absolute connection to the divine. I knew that the divine created life, and that every life was a miracle. I was a miracle. This child was a miracle, as was the widow. And that, of course, he would want his miracles to be fed. And so there was absolute trust that this food would appear. I hope this answers your question. Yes, it absolutely did. Thank you so much, Sandalphon. My next question is, I would like you, as the Archangel you are, hopefully you are still attuned to some level of prophecy, and I would like you to share anything that you can prophesy about Earth and its transformation, and any messages for humanity about that. What is it that you feel is important to share and for us to know now? Thank you. Before I tell you what I am going to tell you, I wish you to take heart, because everything that I will describe next is indeed temporary, and you need to know that the outcome will be positive. But I do see tremendous struggle for you for perhaps 5 years to a decade, because many, many systems will be crumbling. Many old beliefs will be crumbling. Many structures will be crumbling. And in this period of chaos, life can be difficult. We urge you to see this as like a large crane demolishing a building that became so old and fractured that it was no longer safe and no longer served, and was just taking up space and being an eyesore. So, too, if you can stay in that place of knowing that the divine is beautifully orchestrating the taking down of all that no longer serves, all that is an emotional sore, all that keeps humanity limited, and a very few having the power and control over many lives, then you can have hope during this and actually celebrate. Yes, this was the necessary step before all of humanity rises, where we all discover our sovereignty, and in our collective wisdom we create new systems that are amazing, that we have the ability to communicate with star brothers and sisters who are here with experience and technologies and guidance for us, and from our divines as well. And as you go through this period, know that these changes, once the old has fallen, will come into place very rapidly, much more so than you could ever imagine would be true. So hold on to that, knowing as you go through this next 5 years to 10 years, it is very hard for us to know exactly linear time because there are many timelines unfolding, and much of it depends on what you, the viewers of this channel, do to move your charges and move your fears about the future and hold new visions for yourselves and others about what your future can include. Be creative. Be powerful. Continue to do your work to release all that is old and crumbling within you that no longer serves. And know that this too gets reflected in the outer world. And that each of you individually and collectively is now doing what is necessary. Doing the housework, doing the demolition, doing the clearing out, and that you will collectively rebuild. And it will be a thing of wonder for you to experience once you are there. I also wish to share about what you can especially call upon me for. For whatever reason, I am very resonant with music. I love and have known that even in my time in the darkest ages, the right music could help people feel connected and the love and the joy and the possibility. And so if you are someone expressing through this means, please call upon me, permission me to help you, to download into you much divine guidance as to whatever it is. Melodies, harmonies, lyrics, all of it. I am very aligned with all of it. If you are someone who is interested in helping create conscious connection in relationships between family, between parents and children, call upon me. Having experienced being a human and now being an angel, this is something that I know is so vital, and I could be of such service in this. So this is yet another arena for me to assist you. If you are feeling overwhelmed by your feelings or even by health issues related to the ways you have perhaps suffered trauma emotionally or physically, you can call upon me for this because I have intimate knowing of what it is to be in a human body and to have these things. So I have great understanding and compassion. So reach out to me. Give me your requests and I will be with you to help you to release all that no longer serves you and to have you find your grace, your ease, your evolution. I am so grateful to have been given this opportunity for you to know me better and to think of me as an archangel that wishes to be in close connection to you. Thank you. Well, so I hope you are enjoying getting to know the archangels as much as I am. If anything Sandalphon shared particularly resonated with you, please comment about it below. And if you're someone who's already had a connection to Sandalphon and has other things to share about how you relate to that particular archangel or others, please share that as well. If you have further questions, I know I will be happy to connect with Archangel Sandalphon again. And so, again, thank you so much for all you do to like, share, subscribe, and engage with this content. Thank you. Thank you. I am very content to be doing this with you. Until next time.